Hey everyone, this is Tracy Friedlander. You're listening to Crushing Classical, redefining a thriving classical music career. On the show today, I have Babatunde Akinboboye. I've been a fan of Babatunde's ever since I saw his first video of him singing opera with hip-hop beats in his car. Have you seen this video? It's a must-see. He's incredible, boldly blending opera with hip-hop. In our conversation, which we had on Facebook Live, he tells the story of creating that first video and how all it really was a video of something he'd been doing for years. As a lover of hip-hop, he really always heard opera through a hip-hop lens. I love this conversation so much because we dive into what it's like to be visible around something that is so clearly not traditional. How does the opera world view this interesting mashup? How do you create a career with this totally unique way of doing things? We dive into all of this and so much more on this episode. To keep up with all things Babatunde, go to the show notes for links to follow him on Facebook and Instagram, as well as links to his YouTube channel and his mailing list. Let's get started. So, I'm so excited to have you here. You are an opera singer, as well as a hip-hop opera singer. So, I think you're the only one of those. Is that true?
As far as I know so far, yeah. That's been the case.
That's so awesome. That's like, how many people can say they're the only one, doing the thing? It's so great.
Yeah, it's a rare thing, but I'm loving it. I'm digging it. It's lots of fun.
So I want to get your whole backstory, like how you got into singing and all of that too, but what happened? Like, how did all of a sudden you become Babatunde hip opera? Like, take us back to like the moment that happened.
Oh man. Okay. So that's like the beginning of it when it started is kind of tricky because I guess this is kind of how it went down for me. I've always been a hip hop fan. Like
Yeah.
I've listened to hip hop and rap pretty much all my life. I came to classical music so much later, and so by the time I came to classical music, I was hearing everything kind of through a hip hop uh, or hearing it through a hip hop lens, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, it's just the way I kind of processed it, which was weird, but it was like my dirty little secret. I would like, if I'm trying to like work on a rhythm and like I'm going over something over in my head. If you see me from across it, you think I just have like a hip hop song stuck in my head the way I would go through it. But it was the musical framework. I just kind of like fit it in the pieces. I was like, oh, I know this rhythm. That's a rhythm from this Busta Rhymes song from this album, and yeah, I'll put this here, and so on and so forth. And it just like that's how it works. So the whole time I was singing, the whole time I'm singing opera, I'm thinking it's always kind of like hip hop to me. And so in the car, I would do it I would do it on my own, and it just I kind of like hoped someone would do this because every now and then I'm like, I'm on stage in rehearsal and I hear something. And it was just like, how does no one else hear this as hip hop? And everyone's standing like perfectly still. I'm just like, I'm struggling not to dance right now. And it's just like, okay, whatever.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you're looking around going, I hope someone does this. And then one day you're like, I do it. I could do it. So you said you did it in your car for fun all the time.
Yeah, I was in the car. Yeah, I was just always in the car. Because what would happen is I'll get like opera songs stuck in my head, like out of rehearsal,
Yeah.
or just, throughout the day. And then, but I'm in the car most of the time, I'm listening to hip hop. And I want to sing the song, but it drives me crazy to like have like two different beats going on. Keys, I can do all day, every day. I do a lot of new music, a lot of like 21st century opera. And so I can warp keys to make sense in my mind. But the rhythm needed to fit. It needed to fit the beat. So I got really used to just singing opera over hip hop beats and making it, essentially sound like hip hop. It just, but then one day, wait, is my connection all funky? Yeah, okay, we're good. But then one day, I was like, yeah, screw it. I'm just gonna record this. I thought it'd be funny. I put my phone up with my phone out, and I set it to record. And I was like singing, "La Grande Factotum" over the Kendrick Lamar beat. And then I posted online. I posted it on my own like personal Facebook page first because it's just for my friends. I thought, oh, they'll think this is funny. They'll think this is dope. And then And then they started liking it and commenting and sharing it and sharing it. And then it got out of my circle very quickly. And I posted really late at night. And so I was like, oh, excited. Oh, people really like it. People think it's dope. Cool. And I went to sleep. I woke up next morning and I was like, okay. All right. And okay, what do we do with this? Okay. And because I mean, I like attention. I'm a performer. I'm not like, I'm not even ashamed of that. But I wasn't prepared for this. This was very overwhelming. But it also felt good that people liked it too, because I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you said it when you told me this story, like, I mean, that's so funny. Like they always say there's no such thing as an overnight success. And I'm sure there's so much more of an evolutional story with this, but like you literally woke up to like, oh my gosh, people like this thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's so
it kind of almost, well, I don't want to say it's weird to say overnight success, even though, because obviously I had to know how to sing opera to do it. And you're not doing that overnight. But, totally. And I guess I've had the years of practice doing this in my car, so.
Right, and that's what they say. That's what everyone says about overnight success. It's like a lifetime long, like there's no such thing as that. But like, it was cool how like the evolution of like your whole entire history of knowing and listening to hip hop combined with your opera turned into this like one moment. You know what I mean? It's
because at the same time, it does feel overnight. Because, I literally posted at night, went to sleep, and the next morning I was like, okay, something has changed for me. Like a lot has changed. And it's been like one of the biggest shifts in my life so far. And so, I guess there's that years, and it also feels overnighty.
Yeah, that's so great. So you said you grew up listening to hip hop in your childhood and everything. And then tell me when you discovered opera, like the moment where you were like, where you started singing in that, because it's such a different, I mean, when you think of hip hop and you think of opera, it's like worlds apart, right? So how did you discover opera?
So the short version is I got tricked into joining choir in high school.
Tricked.
I really got tricked because I didn't know what the class was before my friend talked me into signing up for it. And I signed up for it and I showed up the first day and I was like, this class is shaped weird. And I was like, okay. And there's all this music stuff. I was like, oh, I guess they talk about music in this class. And then I realized it was a singing class and I freaked out because I didn't know how to sing. But, and I was 16 in high school, but, we started singing and it was the first time I heard music deconstructed. And it was because we had a smaller exercise where we sang harmonies, like you guys sing this part, you guys sing this part, you guys sing blah, 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 at the same time, blah. And I was like, whoa, that's how that happens? Because I had always taken music in big chunks before. And so hearing it deconstructed, I was like, okay, this, I was hooked. Like from that moment, I was like, and it was exciting because for the first time I knew I had an idea of like what I wanted to do. I had like a passion, and then, and so I asked, can I do this for a living? And my teacher was like, yeah. And so I kept taking lessons and singing in better choirs. And one day, one of my voice teachers said, Babatunde, you should try opera. And at that point, I think I had the same idea of opera as most people, where it's just like, it's loud. It's not for me. Like, no, don't. Okay, let's get back to the choir stuff. This is my thing. And then he's like, no, I think you can actually do this or whatever. So let's try a few vocal things. Hang on a second. He's like, let's try a few. Sorry, my door's open and my neighbors have had enough. What was he saying? Oh, that's right. He was like, let's try a few vocal things. And I was like, okay. So I was like singing la, la. And he's like, okay, do this. And then lower your larynx and raise your pharynx and la, oh, oh. And I was like, oh, and it felt like a superpower. It's kind of like, like I always use this analogy of like superhero movies when they're like teenagers and like, I don't know, like Superman like sneezed or whatever and blew the tables across the room and realized like, oh, that's kind of how it felt for me. Like, how did the sound come out of my face? And I was like, show me how to do it again. And I was like, I was just in love with it. And so I kept doing it. And then one day so after a few lessons, he was like, I think you should try and be an opera singer. And I was like, dude, you're crazy. And he says, no, man, I'm right. And I was like, and we went back and forth. And then he was like, eventually, he's like, everyone I've told to pursue a career in opera that actually has been successful. And I was like, so you think I can do this? And he said, yeah. I was like, all right, man, let's make this happen. And so
Wow.
he said, do a small competition or whatever. And I went and I found a flyer for it. And I was like, what's an area? I need to learn an area. And he said, okay, first of all, that's called aria, and we'll get you to it. And then the rest.
So being that you weren't from this world, like you weren't into classical music, you didn't learn an instrument like at an early age or even sing, like what did your family and your friends say when you started going into opera? Were they just like, what are you doing, dude? Like, how was that?
It was actually, I think because of the choir thing, I kind of eased them into it. Like the
Okay.
choir thing was the first like jarring thing because I was suddenly very, very excited about classical music. And there were days where I was sick and I would stay home, but I would sneak into school just to get to choir class and sneak back out just so that, because it was weird about attendance. But yeah, it was, so they've had a few years of hearing me talk about choir music and choral music and
So
more
you warmed them
classical
up.
stuff and other groups. And then I warmed them up, and then I was like, oh, I can kind of sing. Look how I sing differently now. And then it went on. Then eventually they're like, okay, and then but I think I've always been a little eclectic. I've just always like whatever I've wanted to do, I've just done. And
Uh-huh.
so it's just like, okay, that's another one of the things. But this one kind of stuck. And
That's
so
awesome.
yeah.
So what did you do next? Like at this point when your teacher's like, you should be an opera singer, were you just like, you're like, okay, now what? So like, did he guide you and say like, you need to major in music, you need to go to these schools? Like what happened next?
Yeah, he said, I was like, because I wanted to know, like, I was like, after I agreed to try the opera thing, I was like, okay, what would I need to do? He said, well, you want to get a degree. And I was like, because I was at a community college at the time. And I was just like, I was over school.
Yeah.
But he's like, you'll need to go to school. And he recommended Cal State Northridge, and which was convenient for me because I knew the choral director there, which was like a great segue because jumping from I knew nothing about opera. I'd never seen an opera. I'd heard opera songs and commercials, and
Right.
because I like classical music, there were a few opera YouTube videos that I really liked and like I saved, and it made me feel really fancy that I liked a few opera songs or whatever. Sorry, I'm just thinking about how much has changed since then. Because now I hear those same songs, I'm like, not again. Um, um, okay, what was I saying? What was I saying? I do this all the
that
time.
you had
Lord.
like not you didn't have really a good context for what opera was, and but you got into Cal
Oh, yeah,
State.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to Cal State Northridge because I knew they had a good choral program, and I was like, okay, I knew the choral director there, and it'll kind of ease me in something familiar while I jump into this opera world. And so I went to audition, to audition for the program, hoping I get in. And they called me that night and asked me. They said they're doing the fall opera. Well, do I want to do a role in it? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in an opera. I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. And then I was like, yeah, I'll play Bart. It was like we're doing the Le Nozze di Figaro. It's the Barber, not the Barber. It's a Marriage of Figaro, and we want you to play Bartolo. And I was like, okay. I was like, so you'll get the score and learn. And I was like, all right. And then I think that was around. I think I did contact that same voice teacher and say like, okay, how do I go about this? Where do I get the score? And he said, okay, this is what it looks like. This is where
But
you
I love
go. And
that
I got
story
it.
because it's so committing to something before you really feel ready. You know what I mean? That's what I love.
Yeah.
I really think that's the best way to move forward is to say yes to something and then figure it out later. And you
Yeah,
totally jumped in with 2 feet. I love that so much.
yeah, I mean, it's fun now, but when I realized what I jumped into, because I got all of my singing up to this point was choral, so I have these 5-page music scores, and then I got this giant book,
Oh my
and it was
God, I
all
know.
music, and I was like, and it's all Italian, and I was like, wait, I have to learn this, and it's like, no, you have to memorize it. And I was like, okay, so I got started like tiny bits, but I was so excited that it wasn't as daunting as it probably should have been. But I showed up the first day and I had it memorized, the best I thought I could or whatever. I didn't understand how recitative works back then. I was like, okay, I was doing,
Yeah.
it was neat. But I got there the first day and I was like, okay, we're doing an opera, and the whole process was, but because I'm around my peers, I don't want to appear. Yeah, that rhymes. I don't want to appear, you know, aloof or just completely
Right.
unaware of what's going on, because everyone knew all these opera singers and they'd seen operas for years and they knew, they had all these, like, all the lingo and stuff. And I was like, oh, I pretended I could sing well at that point, which was how I got in. But outside of that, I just stayed quiet. And so we're going through the process. So I'm watching my first opera while in it. And I'm giggling, I'm laughing, I'm excited. The first time I heard the orchestra practice, and they're doing it's a marriage of figaro, so and I was like a kid. I was like, but everyone's sitting around me, so I'm doing this. I'm like, oh, it sounds good. Yeah, it sounds good. But inside, I'm like, this is what it sounds like in real life. I've never seen an orchestra in real life either until that
Oh my
rehearsal
gosh.
for,
Wow.
yeah, not like for like an opera. So it was and I just kept like one thing after the other. But the going to college was it's throwing you in the deep end, and you
Oh
soak it
yeah.
all in. And so, but I caught up. I learned. I'm a quick learner. So
I
it was
love that so much. That's so great. So take us through. So now you're done with school, and did you like, how do you get started with an opera career? I mean, just hope
well.
someone discovers you, or what's the next step?
Yeah, the first day after I graduated, I dressed up in my tux, went outside, and was like, all right, guys,
Here
all right, man.
I am.
And they did it. So that's not quite how it went down. So I got a few gigs towards the end of college, and so I was kind of getting known outside. And so when I finished, I would audition at all the local opera companies and do the summer young artist program, and it's just been a slow growth. There's never been any like big thing that's happened until this video. But what was I saying? So like I graduated, yeah, auditioned at houses here and there. I would get hired, and then I would be seen in that performance. And
Okay.
I got to a point in my career. Oh wait, I probably shouldn't say this because we're screw it. I'll say it anyway. I got to a point where I pretty much wasn't auditioning at
Okay.
all. Like I hadn't auditioned in a few years, and I was still getting enough work. And I was like, okay, cool. This is cool. I kind of hit like a thing, and it was enough. And so I was like, okay, this is some years are better than others, and that's kind of where I was right around the time this video came out, and
Okay.
yeah, it was just
Yeah.
it was just for fun.
So wait,
And
so just in case someone is listening and watching and really hasn't seen your work, can you describe the hip hop video that you put out? Like, can you just describe that very first one? What do
sure,
you,
the
yeah.
very first one. So it's me sitting in the car. I'm just sitting in traffic. I'm driving, and
You were driving at the time? Or were you
yeah, no,
parked?
I'm actually driving. Like in my car, I'm driving. Yeah, because in the video, I love going in the comment section for these videos, and I'm lucky because there's very very little negative stuff in there, which is great because I'm
That's good.
sensitive. The but what's great is seeing the different theories. People are in there. It's like, oh, he's not driving. He's in the back seat, and other people are like, no, he's clearly driving, and people are like, oh, he's lip syncing, and so on. So what happened was, I'm in the car, I'm driving. There's a lot of traffic that day. I was like on the streets, and I was singing the song. I had it stuck in my head. I was like against the beat from "Humble" by Kendrick Lamar, and I just kind of like turned the camera on my phone around because I have it mounted and then I just sang straight through it. And it was just a lot of fun. I saw the video. I was like, okay, cool. So I posted that video.
Just one take. You're
Wait,
just like, that's funny. That's cool. I'll put it out.
yeah, yeah. It was
That's
just one.
great.
Like, granted, I'd done it in the car a bunch of times, but yeah, I pretty much just
Right.
put it up there, just did one take.
So
And
I have a
but
comment
it's silly.
here. I have a comment from Christopher Still. He says, we want to hear some.
We want to hear. Okay, I can. I wonder if I can. I can. You know what? I think I can play the actual video here. Give me 1 second.
Okay. You can share the screen or something.
Annoying, sorry. Yeah, I think this is gonna work. Ha! Yes, I love technology. Always and forever. 10 points to anyone who knows that reference. Wait, don't play it. Okay, yeah, this is a video. And there's an ad.
This is the one that went viral.
I will share my screen. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm hoping.
Oh, I can't hear it. Can you hear it?
Can you hear it?
I can't.
Sound might not be coming through, and that might just not be happening today.
Yeah,
oh,
but
that's a shame.
But that's okay, because you could do a live version right now. But we can also put a link to it.
Could do a live version. You know what? I think I might be able to work out something. Give me. Where did I put my speaker? If you give me 30 seconds, I think I can make that happen.
Okay,
Maybe
cool. You know
bit.
what I love the part in that video, how it's like the beat starts and then you're just like you just go for it. It's the best part of that video. I think that's what everyone's like, what? So great. Okay, I think it's happening. Chris, it's happening. I'm just getting ready. All right, guys. Well, we're going to have some questions.
Okay, good news and bad news.
Later. Okay, good news and bad news.
Oh, there are more questions? Wait.
No, not yet. But I said I figure we could do questions later at the end, maybe.
Good news. Oh, yeah. Wait. Oh, my internet's being wonky. That's what's going on.
Oh, okay. Well,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Back.
Okay.
Okay, sweet. Okay, I think we're back on track. That was probably on my end. Good news and bad news is it's going to take me too long to get that actual beat up. But so after I did this, I recorded. As you may know, I recorded. Screw it. I'm just going to play it. Wait 1 second. Okay. That's loud. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I haven't even warmed up today. Okay. La 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 largo foto della città largo la 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 presto bodega che lava già presto la 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 che bel vivere che bel piacere che bel piacere di qualità bravo Figaro bravissimo bravo la 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 no fortunatissimo per verità bravo la 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 fortunatissimo per verità fortunatissimo per verità la 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 la. This is my favorite part every time. Pronto fatto, domani ci torno, sempre di corno in giro sta, mille cucchiaie per barriere, mille non gira, la 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 rasa le pettini, latte dei forbici, hanno con mano dove ci sta, rasa le pettini, latte dei forbici, hanno con mano dove ci sta, e la risorsa buone mestiere, quella nonnetta, col cavaliere, una nonnetta, la 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 la, col cavaliere, tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, donne ragazzi, vecchie fanciulle, quella parrucca, sono barba, tutte mi vogliono con la parrucca, presa la barba, presa il biglietto. Ehi, Figaro, 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 Figaro. Figaro qua, Figaro là, Figaro qua. Not sure about that, but Figaro su, Figaro giù, Figaro su, Figaro Figaro Okay.
I love it. Oh my God, this is so great. This is so great. Oh my God. People are saying fabulous. Bravo. That's awesome. You're making my commute downtown awesome. Thank you. I love it.
Well,
Okay,
glad.
you know what? I'm definitely going to link like how people can support you, buy your album, all of that jazz in the comments, in the show notes when this comes out on audio, because it's just it's awesome. It's rad. So tell me, like, what does the opera world think of this? Are they like, yeah? Are they like, what do we do with this guy?
Okay, so you know what? I'm trying to figure out how much I want to say.
Yeah, how can you say it without like throwing anyone under the bus, right? Because it's kind of
I'm not
obvious.
it's not even really that kind of situation.
Okay.
So what has been great is a lot of my peers, a lot of other opera singers around my age, they love it. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of like support, and just people, even every now and then they'll get like a comment in the comment section where someone says something maybe a little critical, and then some of my peers show up and they jump on them, which is dope.
Nice.
And so that has been great. What has been interesting, and yeah, screw it, I'll just say it. So after the video went viral, I was hearing from everyone, like not just like people, but like I heard from a lot a lot of big like newspapers, companies, some TV shows. I was hearing from everyone. But what was interesting is I almost didn't hear from any opera company, like in any situation. And
this is my shock look.
Yeah, it's like, well, and I'm not saying like, oh, hey, look, I'm viral, hire me and pay me money.
Right.
No,
right.
but like because where we are in opera, especially in America now, we could use some attention. We could use a lot of help because we're trying, actively trying to get the public, get more people into opera.
Yeah.
And so as not myself, just someone outside of opera watching, or someone outside of me as in the opera community, if I'm seeing like, hey, there's this guy who's getting a lot of attention from outside, how do I get some of that attention to, if not my industry, my company, my opera, hey, Babatunde, here's some tickets, come see a show, just post about it, whatever, just some sort of interaction or whatever. But I mean, I was out internationally and I didn't hear from like a single one, which was really weird. And I'm like, if I heard from like a few, okay, that would have been cool. But the silence was really weird. So I don't know how they feel about it. They might be just standing out off the side, just watching for now. And it's cool because I don't need their approval. That's really how it feels. Like and as a performer, I work for the applause. It will and the money, but the applause. And so I'm getting that now. Essentially, like I'm getting that attention. I'm getting and so I'm okay with that. I'm like, okay, my art is good. I don't need the approval. I don't need the, all these opera companies to say, hey, you're doing a great job or whatever. And I feel bad because there's some people in higher up positions in companies that I don't even know personally, that I did get personal messages from. It's like, hey, what you're doing is great, keep doing it. But even those seemed a little like clandestine, seemed a little like, coming to meet me, like crossing enemy lines or whatever. And I'm being dramatic. I'm an opera, that's how I roll. But that's how it that's kind of how it felt. So I don't know what's going on that end, and I'm cool with it. I'm gonna keep doing my thing, and we'll see. But yeah, I think it's gonna get interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're being yourself, which I love so much. Some of the people that I admire the most, I mean, pretty much all the people I admire the most, like in any genre of what they're doing, when they're entirely authentic in themselves, that's the most attractive, And so I think so many people are going to look up to you as time goes on, and so many people already do. Here's a comment. That's kind of the thinking that got opera and orchestra music into the situation we are in the first place. Bravo to you. It's true. It's like, yeah, it's so true. And what's two things? People that have a relationship with hip hop already love it, and you're introducing a new thing but paired with something they have a relationship with. So it's their mind is already open. Now they can go, "Ooh, what is that? I'm interested." And like you told me on our other call that someone was like, "Hey, I heard your, Marriage of Figaro," right?
I get comments like that where someone will say like, "Hey, Babatunde, I love your stuff. The opera's in town. They're doing Cosi fan tutte down the street. I'm actually going to go see it. I've never seen an opera before, but I want to go see now. Like I'm interested.
I want to hear the original, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think what it is just they're hearing, because the style of singing is always impressive. It's always been this since through the history, but I think we built up a certain association, which I didn't see the comment, but whoever said that I think is a result of the way that they've handled the classical industry, I want to say.
Yep.
And I feel, no, screw it, I'm not even going to apologize. Has gotten to this point where people hear it and there's a bunch of associations, regardless what it is. It's some variation on, oh, that over there is neat, or that's for there, and it's not really for everyday consumption, if you will. And so I think hearing it with the beat and in a way that just felt really familiar and comfortable. I think because we hear hip hop beats all the time now at this point. It's like the #1 selling genre of music in the world.
Yeah.
So I think hearing the opera with that, it's like, oh, it's a little more like, and I'm interested. I want to go check out more. There's an actual opera going on. I'm down. Let's go. And so I'm like, I'm a gateway drug for opera right now for some people, which I'm down for.
Yeah, that should be a hashtag for you for sure. Gateway drug to opera. Well, I love it, and I mean, I'm always so happy to have a conversation with someone who is disrupting, the status quo in the orchestra opera world, because how many times do you hear, oh, this orchestra is locked out, they're on strike, this opera company folded, blah, blah, blah. Like, let's start to look outside the standard way of thinking and introduce some new ideas. It was this, I heard this quote today. I think it's an Einstein quote. I heard it on a different podcast. Someone said, the thinking that got us into this situation the same thinking isn't going to get us out of this. Right?
Dude, yes.
Right?
Yes. That is so real.
It is. It's such a great quote. And I'm like, I need to plaster it all over my Facebook page because
you know what? I'm diving in. The thing that drives me, one of the things that drives me nuts the most is, as I was learning about opera history in school, I remember hearing it was very much about what was popular. And opera continued to adapt as it changed through, the decades, went through opera kept adapting. And if they needed to go to another country to get an influence of like that kind of music to breathe new life into it, they did. I mean, Carmen, I tell a lot of my friends, it's a lot like what America did with, or American hip hop music did with reggaeton. It was big in South America. It's like, oh, what is this? And hip hop was kind of saggy at the time. And I'm sidetracking, but either way, it's like opera was actively trying to remain popular by any means necessary. It was just, and it wasn't even that they had to work. It was just allowed to breathe. It was allowed to be influenced by the new popular music, and it kept doing that. And at some point, and I don't know if it was when we were able to record, we had recording this came around, we decided we wanted to throw it in amber and protect it from the influences of the dirty popular music. And opera is like walking around criticizing everyone with dragging its oxygen tank behind it. And I'm just like, listen, you need to be, that's really the way it feels to me, because like, since I'm diving in, recently, one of the things that irked me the most was the way the opera community responded to Kanye West's opera. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of everything Kanye has ever said and thought and done. However, I do recognize he's extremely popular. And as soon as he even said the word opera, because when it came out, everyone was like, "Oh, Kanye West, is this a real opera?" It was really, really, it was just met with criticism out the gate. And I feel like the only thing opera really should have said at that point was, "Thank you for saying the word opera and being Kanye West." And now it's what people are looking up or seeing the word opera in their news feed. And maybe if they like, I'll go in. I'll go on forever and ever. But it's just like, why are you not scrambling to anything that's popular in opera right now? Why does opera feel like we're in a situation where we can afford to distance ourselves? I don't care if it's good or bad at this point. If it's popular, yeah.
Right on. I know exactly. It's like, why do we have to even ask if it's good or bad? I mean, if it's bringing attention, good or bad, let's use it. So it's sort of, I want to talk back to that comment you just made about like what opera used to do. Same thing with classical music, like how like people in Mozart's day would like yell in between movements and eat and drink and be like, however, throw tomatoes at the stage if they didn't like it. Not that I'm saying we should do that, but like, like
I've seen some operas that could use some tomatoes.
Exactly. And then like, I mean, I know the story of Tosca, how they took that play. It was a play that was like going nuts in France. So they're like, let's make an opera out of it because we have to use this already popular thing that's happening.
Exactly.
So I don't know why we like you said, I don't know where in history we drew a line in the sand and said, let's actually stop. Like the things that people are saying we should evolve to are actually things that already happened, So
yeah. Yep. I don't get it. And I'm maybe there's something I don't know. There's something I don't get, but from where I'm sitting on the other, on this end, I'm just like, it feels so simple, but I think it's just distasteful enough where opera is willing to, shoot itself. What's the phrase? Something about cutting off the nose to spite the face.
Yeah.
I think I think it's something like that because it's like you can literally just what you're talking about, like with the old audiences. I love that. Like as an opera singer, whenever I sing something and someone loses control in the audience and goes like, yeah, or whatever, I'm as an artist, I'm like, so like, give me that. That's what I want, that energy. But in opera, like opera is one of the only genres of music I know where we tell the audience how to enjoy it.
Yeah.
No, don't clap yet. No, quiet. Like, oh, don't, this is the part. Like, and if they get too like excited, it's like, oh no, I know this is good, but calm down. And then they're wondering like, why are people coming back to opera? I'm just like, because it's just like I want that. I want the performances where people are like, yeah, like scream, like throwing stuff on stage, like that was dope. I'm like, yes, give me that energy. You're having a good time. I'm having a good time. I want to come back. You want to come back. Let's do this. But
I know. Okay, Babatunde, this is happening. Like I see, it's sort of like a Hamilton level opera where you're leading the charge. And people get to be whoever they want in the audience, and it's happening.
That's a very, very. I have lots of plans for live hip hop opera.
That's awesome.
And I'm working towards it since I've just apparently said everything in my mind. I don't know. I'm usually good with my filter, and honestly, this is the filtered version of a lot of my thoughts and stuff because. At the same point, and that's one of the rough parts. I think a lot of people. Well, actually, I think a lot of people in the classical industry experience this period, and I have theories on that too. Just the feeling of like I don't feel like enough of. I don't feel like I'm a real enough opera singer to be critical. Like the whole imposter syndrome. Like I'm like, can I like? But I'm like, no. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to tell me something about opera I don't know. And if you're not working in opera, there's a high probability I've forgotten more than you've learned. So I'm an opera singer. I can be this critical and like working in the industry, like that's really how. And honestly, going back to that feeling of like, what did I say? That imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I think I think that separation opera and I'm speaking mostly about opera just because that's my wheelhouse. That separation opera has with the popular world is creating that for us because we listen to popular music. This is the kind of music, you know, it's popular. That's why we listen to, a lot of us do.
Yeah.
And so that's what we know. So going opera always seems so foreign because it's such a chasm in between. Whereas we get there, we don't feel, and we know that, you know, the past generation, they got the benefit of opera being more popular. And so they grew up listening to it. They understand it, you know, and so on in that sense. But you know, this last thing I'm going to make, speaking about like us and as opera singers, one of the things that concerned me the most as I got older, like as I became an older opera singer, was how few of us opera singers want to go see operas.
Yep.
I as an opera singer, I don't know a lot of us who Friday night, pocket full of cash, free schedule. What are we going to do? Oh, is there an opera in town? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm going to go. One of my friends isn't in it, and one of the biggest stars in opera isn't in it, but I want to go see it.
Right.
We're just not doing that.
Yeah.
And that's scary because I think the people most likely to go see, because we always say, oh, you don't go see operas because you don't understand it. And I'm like, we understand it more than anyone else, and we don't want to go see it.
That's a seriously good point. It's the same thing with symphony. I don't go, what am I going to do tonight? You know, especially if you're, unless it's like you're visiting New York and it's your favorite opera and it's the Met, and like that's one thing, sort of a novelty kind of thing. But as a regular thing you're doing, the musicians aren't buying season tickets or whatever. Yeah.
What's scary, we're kind of watching it the same way the public is. And it's like, oh, you know, Anna Netrebko's in town. I'm going to go see, like, when I get a chance, that's when we go. But outside of that, as long as, you know, if we're not getting paid, and maybe it's because we work in opera.
Yeah.
No, that's not true, because I think people in musical theater were like fighting, trying to get tickets to go see Hamilton, or most musical theater. I think musical theater singers on a Saturday, Friday night when they have a pocket full of cash and time out, it's like, oh, I've been wanting to see this show.
That other show. Yeah.
And so, oh man, I think I'm being a little too, but that's the thing. I feel weird, like I'm being a little too real.
No.
And I'm not saying anything that I haven't already heard a million times from my other peers. So.
No, and you know what? It's about time. Like, I want more people to say their thoughts and to really have this conversation, because that's how things evolve. That's how things move forward. If people start talking about it publicly and actually say what they want to say, you know? So I'm so grateful that you're doing that right now too. Yeah. It's a conversation that needs to be had more and more and more and more. And on top of that, by what you do in your art form, you're continuing that conversation just by being who you are. So that's the main thing too, is that what I feel like is sort of a strong tenet for Crushing Classical is we talk about it and we have this conversation, and then in our lives we be that, you know, as much as we can, because that's how an evolution starts. You can only take care of what you're doing yourself. You can get super frustrated about the industry as much as you want, but unless you do something about it, it's going to stay the same. So I think it's really important that we're having this conversation and that you're doing what you do. I just love it so much. It's so great.
Thanks.
So great. So go ahead.
No, I just want to say, because I feel like I just dumped on opera for the last however many minutes I was talking. And there are some new operas that are really exciting. There are some new American opera composers that I was like, okay, wait, I want to go see, like, this is good. This is good stuff. You know, Kevin puts, what's his name? Oh, geez. The guy who wrote Moby Dick, Jake Heggie. I'll throw, and Adams too. Like, there's some American opera composers that are writing some stuff that I'm like, okay, wait, there might be, you know, like this is interesting. But, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but it feels like a lot of times that opera composers are writing operas for other opera composers or other opera fans, like,
forgetting the audience.
like opera. And I wish I could, like, sometimes I want to just walk into some, like, conducting class in some university, just kick open the door and say, hey guys, write music, write a piece, get a bunch of people who've never heard that kind of music before, like heard like classical music or opera, get them in the room, hear it. If they're not trying to like sneak like audio clips or like to their friends or trying to find out how they can get it afterwards, rewrite it. It's not popular. Just write something that people like. It's just like, and there's some, yeah, it just drives me nuts.
I know. How about that now? That like that novel idea, right? Something that people want to hear. Huh? That's really good.
Yeah, and like, I mean, they're always like glimpses, but I was just like, why are there so why isn't it glimpse? Why can't it just be one piece of just like this music is good? Oh, this part's good. This part, that one part, like there are a few parts that are kind of like boring, but the rest of it was good. I want that. Like, it's just, yeah, I feel like, and you know, someone out there is probably gonna be like, well, you write a piece of music. I guess I kind of am in a way.
Yeah.
It's kind of throwing the pieces
Well, yeah, because
together.
you had to start writing your own beats, right? Or having help with that because you couldn't use like existing.
Yeah, I couldn't use Kendrick Lamar's beats all the time, so I had to like. And then you know, you're thinking about keys when you're doing opera. You think about keys and tempos and stuff like that, and range and and so.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool. I love hearing about the process of it too. So people can follow you on Babatunde Hip Opera. That's your Facebook page and Instagram, right?
Yes.
On YouTube?
Yes, and YouTube. I haven't been able to change my YouTube thing from back in the day. So, you know what? If you just Google Babatunde Opera, you'll find me on YouTube.
Oh, that's awesome. So what else do you have coming up? Tell me something that you've got coming down the pike as far as like concerts, albums. What do you want to promote?
I'm still so right now I've been talking about this on some of my social media lately. I've been working on a full album because I did an EP a while back. So if you haven't heard my EP or if you don't, it's on everywhere you stream music or buy music, download it. The EP is called De La Città. I should have probably put that in English so people, too late now. DELLACITTA. De La Città means of the city. But so I did that. I put that EP out, and people were like, "Okay." I was kind of testing it out. People liked it, and then I was like, "Okay." They wanted. They made it clear that they wanted a full CD. So I'm working on that right now. I don't want to make any promises about anything, just because there's been like one thing or the other. It's really fun coming from opera, which is pretty much, "Hey, I auditioned. Do you like me? We'll let you know. Hey, we liked you. Come do this in this opera. Sweet. Will you pay me? Sweet. Show up, stand here, give me a check. Done." To going to producing an album or putting it is a very different animal. And so I'm learning. I'm working it out, but it's going well. So I'm working on my album. That is coming out. That is all I want to say for sure right now. Okay. There are some very big, very exciting things happening this year. But for a number of reasons, I should not say anything about it.
Right. Well, people just have to follow you then so they can stay up to date.
You just have to follow me. Follow me on
Sign up
Instagram.
your email, like your email link, and I can put all those links in the comments and stuff too.
So, you know, I have a hub, my website, hiphopraworld.com.
Okay.
Is pretty much the best way to get a hold of me. Sign up for my email list, so because when this stuff starts, when everything's lockdown starts coming out, that's kind of like you'll be able to hear first that way. But definitely follow me on Instagram, Babatunde Hip Opera, and my name's down there, assuming it's the same place on everyone's screen. And Facebook, those are my main. I got to learn how to tweet more. It's just it's a lot of things.
Do you do all your own social media too? Do you have any help? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Babatunde. And like, what about, like you said, like the difference between getting called for a gig and then making an album. What other work are you doing outside of like?
I am still doing traditional operas. And which is, so traditional operas mostly for me is a lot of I do a lot of 21st century opera. And actually, while I'm here, I do want to talk about an opera I am doing. Well, I'll just mention it briefly. I just started rehearsals for an opera called Sweetland, and it's in Los Angeles, being done by a company called The Industry. And it's I would Google the information, or if someone, I'll throw it in the comment section.
Yeah.
But it's a brand new opera. It's like fresh. Just finished getting written almost, and
awesome.
it's going to be in March in LA Historical Park. I should have looked all this up earlier, but it's going to be cool. It's that's all I'm going to say about it right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. And I just loved today hearing about your career. I think we're so lucky you did this, that live for us. I mean,
No
that's a real
problem.
treat. So thank
This
you.
was fun. I'm sure I'm going to get messages about some of the stuff I said, but it's real.
You know what? Good and the bad. You gotta, I'm so glad you had this conversation. And look back at the comments, because people are like, here, like they are totally in agreement with you. Yeah. I couldn't switch too much back and forth, because every time I switch, I have the on time window on top. So if I commented, I'd be like, getting confused. Christopher, still awesome interview, he says. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining this live session. I'm so excited. This episode will come out on Crushing Classical Audio as well later. But thank you so much, Babatunde.
No problem. A lot of fun.
I'm Tracy Friedlander, and you've been listening to the Crushing Classical podcast. You can follow Crushing Classical on Instagram and Facebook at Crushing Classical. If you haven't yet, you can go to Apple Podcast and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Your reviews help others to find these conversations. Thanks for listening.